Is the Sony a6400 still worth buying in 2022? Well, in this video, we're gonna find out. What's going on, everybody? This is Andre here with Camera Review Pro. In this video, we're gonna be taking a look at the Sony a6400 and going over whether or not it's still worth buying in 2022. Now, before we go any further, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. But with that being said, let's get into the video. So the Sony a6400 is a really versatile camera that can easily be used for anything from daily photography to vlogging, and even in some cases with the right lenses and settings, more involved stuff like music videos and short films. As you can see, this camera is really portable, making it a great choice for stuff like vlogging, where you're gonna wanna be moving it around a lot, and even everyday photography for the same reason. Let's take a closer look at the camera itself and go over the design and functionality. So on the back here, of course, we got our buttons all really nicely built, and I really like this wheel here. When you're in the menu and you wanna select something quickly, the wheel makes it a lot easier to navigate with. Now we got a 3-inch LCD display here, and this display is interesting in the sense that it's technically a touchscreen, but also it's technically not. You can use it for certain things, like as you can see here, we got touch focus on. You can also use touch tracking or touch shutter in some situations, which I'm not really sure why you would want to do that on a real camera. I could understand doing that on a smartphone, but a camera, it's not really that useful, but it's interesting that the feature is there all the same. But regardless, you can use certain touch features on this camera, but at the same time, as you can see, it's really not a touch screen per se. You will be using these buttons to navigate, but honestly, I'm not really complaining because these buttons are really nice and really easy to use. There are lots of cameras out there that have really flimsy buttons, but overall, the controls of this camera are really easy and really solid. Now up here, we got our mode selector, pretty straightforward. We also got the flash here, and of course, this pops out when you press the flash button. We got the adapter for an external microphone. There's some hooks on either side of the camera for a sling. We got our HDMI and aux input right here. Down here at the bottom, looks pretty much just like every other camera out there. We got an adapter for a tripod, the battery and SD card compartment, and I really like this little lid here because if you happen to have one of those external battery packs, you can actually thread the wire through this little hole, so you don't need to have it open if you're plugging your camera into an external power adapter and using it for stuff like streaming for a longer period of time. It's kind of annoying when cameras don't have this little hole, so you actually have to leave the entire lid open when you're using a dummy battery or some sort of power adapter. But with this camera, it's really cool. We do have this, so you can keep it closed when you want to. The grip on the camera is also really comfortable, and combined with the size, like I said before, it makes it a really good device if you're trying to do more mobile activities like vlogging and daily photography and that sort of thing. Maybe you're going on a trip or something and you want to get a lot of pictures and you're going to be carrying the camera with you throughout the entire day. This grip makes it really comfortable to hold, and the size overall really contributes to this. And it's super lightweight, so it's not going to be awkward to carry around or anything like that. Now, as far as making videos like talking head YouTube videos and vlogs and stuff like that, you can easily use the LCD display as a viewfinder simply by flipping it out like this. Now, honestly, while this is useful in some situations, I'm really not a big fan of this. I prefer the displays that flip out from the side instead, because look at this. It completely blocks the space for an external microphone. So if you're doing a vlog or something like that, I'm sure you're gonna wanna use an external microphone so you can get better audio quality, because very few cameras have built-in mics that are satisfactory quality for something like that. But with this type of display, it's completely blocking that area. So you're gonna have to get a different type of adapter so you can put an external microphone here on the side, which is really annoying. This is probably the biggest design flaw of this camera, and I really wish the display was a flip out like all the other ones. Now this camera has a 16 to 50 millimeter lens, which is pretty good for everyday normal types of uses. So if you're shooting more basic YouTube videos, more everyday photography, that sort of thing, it should be fine. But if you want to get super wide or super tight, the camera has just over 3x zoom, so while it's decent for some situations, like more basic photography, it's not going to be the best. So if you want to do more involved types of shots that have either super wide angles or really concentrated longer distance zoom, I would suggest getting a different lens other than the kit lens. But once again, for normal everyday use, like vlogs, indoor YouTube videos, daily photography that's not too complex, this kit lens is still really good and produces a nice, sharp, high quality image. Now, another thing I really don't like about this camera is that there's no in-body image stabilization. Now, this is a real bummer because even though the camera is really lightweight and the size and everything makes it a great choice for vlogging, having no image stabilization really kills this advantage. So if you're making a video where you're going to be moving around a lot, or even worse, if you want to do something more cinematic, this can be a problem because it's going to be quite a bit harder to get smoother shots without that image stabilization. To put this into perspective, even smartphones like the iPhone 13 have great image stabilization, so seeing that a camera like this doesn't have that is pretty disappointing. If you use a good tripod or a sling or something like that, you can get much smoother pans, but at the same time, it's still a little bit more of a hassle. And overall, if you're going to be doing lots of things where you're going to be moving around, and that's really going to be your main type of video you're filming, you might want to look at a different camera because not having the image stabilization can be really annoying. Now, when it comes to video, one thing I really do like about this camera is all the different filters and picture settings you can use. So let me show you. So right here, we actually have two different menus with all kinds of different effects. So the first one is the more goofy effects like Instagram filter looking things, and they can get really extreme. I'm not really sure how often you're gonna wanna use these just because they're really not very professional looking. But at the same time, if we go to the second menu, you get what's called a picture profile, which does have some seriously useful and nice looking different image settings that can really enhance the appearance of your video. So if you're shooting more cinematic types of videos, these settings are gonna be really useful for you. Now, on the other hand, another thing I really don't like about this camera is the battery life. Now, I don't really have super high expectations for a camera's battery life, but at the same time, this one really isn't very good. I started this video around 60 something percent, and right now it's at 33, and I barely did anything with the camera. So that really goes to show if you're gonna be shooting videos for a longer period of time, if you're inside, there are plenty of different dummy battery types of power adapters you can use to give the camera continuous battery so you can shoot longer indoor YouTube videos or do streaming, stuff like that. But if you're outside doing a really long photo or video shoot, this can be really annoying because even if you bring a bunch of extra batteries, to have your camera die on you when you're in the middle of recording a video or shooting a bunch of photos, it's just a hassle. I would prefer that the camera has slightly longer battery life so you wouldn't have to worry about this as often. So now that we've gone over some of the specs and overall info about the camera, let's take a look at some photo and video samples. So as you can see with this photo, real high quality, the colors look super bright and the details are really vivid, and I really like how the lighting is handled. In addition to this, the depth of the photo is really nice too. You can see a sharp contrast between the subject and the background that I'm a real big fan of. This photo is much of the same. Here you can really see the blurred out background, and even though I wasn't using a macro lens with this photo, it was just the regular kit lens, you can still see some real nice close-up, sharp details. With this photo, it's a little bit overexposed in my opinion, nothing a good editor couldn't fix, but all the same, you can definitely see it let in a ton of light. And when you're taking photos in more low light settings that aren't in direct sunlight like this photo, you're definitely gonna get some nice shots. This photo is really nice as well. You can really see the quality of the image in detail, and I especially like how vivid the colors are. And again, with the photo and depth of the image, I really like how professional it makes it look. In the photos taken by this camera, you can really tell where the subject of the image is. Now this is another one of those really close-up shots. Again, there was no macro lens used in this photo. It was just the regular kit lens, and it still got some real close-up little details of the photo. And again, the focus is really good. It looks really high quality. So we're doing a quick video test with the Sony a6400. In case you're wondering, right now I am using what's called a switch pod. It's basically a tripod that can also turn into somewhat of a selfie stick. So if you're doing vlogging or something like that, or just simple talking videos where you have the camera on a desk, it's a great tool to have. So in case you're interested, I will be leaving the link in the video description. Keep in mind what this auto exposure and the autofocus look like as I'm moving around between lighter and darker lighting. And another thing to keep in mind is what the audio quality sounds like. Now, for this camera, the audio quality is actually surprisingly good. because the vast majority of cameras I've used don't really have very good mics at all. And with this one, we're not using any kind of external mic. We're just using the built-in microphone on this camera. And for what it is, I do think it's actually really impressive. So as you could see in that test video, not only was the video quality really good, but the audio quality was actually surprisingly good as well. Now this is really cool because a lot of cameras, unless you're using a super high-end camera, and even then, most of them don't really have very good built-in microphones. So you're stuck with either having really bad audio quality or needing to use an external mic. Now this brings me to another point about this camera. Like I said before, it's really a disappointment with the design that the flip-up display completely blocks where you would be putting an external mic. So I do recommend getting an adapter for that so you can put the external mic on the side. Now that is going to be a drawback in general of using this camera for videos, because while you can get away with a little more if you're shooting a video inside, if you're doing something like a vlog where you absolutely have to have the microphone on the camera itself, as opposed to hooking it up to a computer and using the camera as a webcam or something like that, that's a little bit of a workaround. You really are going to be faced with that inconvenience of needing to use an adapter to put the microphone somewhere where it's not going to be blocked by the display. Now, other than the audio quality, I really do like how the exposure works on this camera when it comes to video, and the autofocus is really fast and really effective as well. Now when it comes to the photos, I really like both the quality of the image and the vividness of the colors, and the photos have really good depth too. So as long as you're not trying to go beyond 3x zoom and take more long distance photos with something like a telephoto lens, this camera is going to be great for daily photography with just the kit lens. So in conclusion, is the Sony a6400 worth buying in 2022? Despite a few drawbacks mostly on the video side, I would say this camera is still absolutely worth buying. Not only does it have a really sharp, high quality image when you're taking photos, and great autofocus and auto exposure when you're shooting videos that's really fast and responsive to your environment, but it's also really convenient and easy to use. The controls are not complicated at all, and even if you're new to photography, this is a great camera to learn on because of how user-friendly it is. Really, the only real drawbacks I see to it are, one, the whole microphone and flip-up display situation. That's super annoying and creates a lot of inconvenience around vlogging and stuff like that. The other thing is the battery life. The battery life isn't great on this camera, so if you're going to be doing longer types of photo shoots and stuff like that, you're going to want to have a lot of extra batteries, and even then, it's still inconvenient to have to change batteries in the middle of a video or in the middle of shooting photos. And finally, the last drawback I really see with this camera is the fact that there's no image stabilization. This is another inconvenience when it comes to vlogging or pretty much any type of videos where you're moving around a lot, because it's going to be a lot harder to get smooth shots. But other than that, this camera is really lightweight and portable, making it great for stuff like photo shoots, vacations, that sort of thing, where you're going to be moving around a lot and taking pictures of all kinds of different things in different settings and all that. And it has a really high quality image with the capability of shooting up to 4K at 30 frames per second. So if you want to get some really high quality videos, especially more indoor videos where you don't have to move around a lot, this camera is going to be great for that as well. So overall, if you're looking for a reliable and effective camera that's really easy to use and learn on, the Sony a6400 is going to be a great option. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.